It's time to lock in. We're talking SEC, college football, and more. This is AP as we see it.
I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I said I'm all about that action.
I'm AP Stedham from LA, Lower Alabama. This is AP As We See It, a weekly syndicated show discussing the Southeastern Conference, college football on the national scene, and other sports. We'd like to welcome you to another edition of AP As We See It. We'd like to direct our audience to all our social media platforms, our YouTube channel at AP As We See It, also on Spotify. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X accounts, AP As We See It, and also on my personal social media platforms at AP Stedham. We have all the links and the games that I cover, the photos before the games and the interviews after the game as well. Last week I was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, covering the University of Florida versus LSU. LSU was victorious that evening. And then the next day I was at the San Francisco 49ers versus the New Orleans Saints. So you can view all those post-game interviews on my YouTube channel at AP As We See It. We'd also like to mention our sponsors, Greer's Markets, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, serving the Gulf Coast and beyond. They have Lucy's Famous Recipes that are online. You could also buy our book at the store and also online. Remember, family, friends, and football equals a winning tradition at Greer's. Score big savings on fresh meats, produce, and more on game day for all those spreads at your house. Groceries to go, you can have those delivered at home, at the office, at the venue of your choice. So visit Groceries to Go to order those things in case you can't make it to one of the 29 locations. You have apples for students. You could help the nearby schools by just bringing your receipts to the counter so you can get the free supplies for your local schools. Drop off those receipts. They have the coloring contest for the children. You can check the online ads weekly. And remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. We'd also like to make mention of Robertsdale Dental Care, Dr. Jason Northcutt. Not only are basic services offered by Dr. Jason Northcutt, but he has developed a niche within the practice providing comprehensive dental implant services, such as single implants, bone grafting, and full mouth reconstruction. Dr. Jason Northcutt has been highly trained in those disciplines to offer comfortable and long-lasting solutions to major dental problems. Come by to see Dr. Jason Northcutt and his staff. Dial 251-947-3636. We'd also like to mention the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta, with the spacious rooms, the pool with the indoor serene setting. You feel like you're somewhere in the tropics, but it's beautiful at the indoor pool. It's in the heart of Atlanta, as we mentioned. The restaurants are there, the gift shop, the outstanding breakfast, and Ben Giacomo and his staff do a terrific job with all their hospitality. So drop by the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta. So now we'd like to get on to the show, and we have 10 games on tap, as I mentioned. 2 games within the SEC. So we're going to be discussing all of those. We want to mention the guests as well in segment 2 and 3. Maddy Hudak is a Tulane University football radio sideline reporter. We're going to preview the Tulane University football team versus the Ole Miss football team to be played in Oxford. And then segment 3 is Jason Campbell, the Auburn Football Radio Network analyst. That'd be a big ball game on the road for the Tigers as they visit Norman, Oklahoma, the University of Oklahoma Sooners. So those are 2 big games that we're going to preview in segment 2 and segment 3. But first, we're going to start off with the Football Writers Association National Football Foundation Super 16 poll. And I always like to give my vote and my ballot. And this week I had Penn State number 1, Georgia number 2, Ohio State number 3, Illinois number 4, Oregon number 5, Texas number 6, LSU number 7, Indiana 8, Miami 9, Texas A&M University 10, Florida State University 11, Ole Miss 12, Oklahoma 13, Tennessee 14, Vandy 15, and Alabama 16. The actual compilation of the 50, I think it's 56 voters, they had Ohio State at number 1, Penn State number 2, LSU number 3, Georgia at 4, Oregon 5, Miami 6, Florida State University 7, Oklahoma 8, Texas 9, Illinois 10, Texas A&M University 11, Iowa State 12, Ole Miss 13, Alabama 14, Tennessee 15, and Utah at 16. So I had some variations there in my poll, a couple different teams, but that's the ballots, the composite ballot and my personal ballot. You can check that out on the National Football Foundation website. Every week it comes out, usually on Sunday. Like I said, there's 10 games on tap, 2 SEC games. The teams with a bye, Alabama has a bye, Georgia has a bye, Kentucky has a bye, and Texas A&M University, they have byes this weekend. So the first game we're going to discuss is Arkansas-Memphis. Arkansas is a 6.5-point favorite. They're playing at Memphis. Memphis out of the American Conference. Arkansas 2-1, 0-1 in the conference. That series, believe it or not, Memphis leads 3-2. Arkansas is coming off that 41-35 loss to Ole Miss. Memphis is coming off the victory over Troy, 28-7. We noticed about Arkansas's offense, we say this every week, 569 yards of offense per game. Prolific with Taylor Green as the quarterback. Defense yields 331 yards a game. Memphis has a balanced offense, rushing 218, passing 202, 421 total offense. Defensively, 244 yards. Pretty good defense. They have a quarterback, Brandon Lewis, 55 passes completed out of 75, couple of TDs. He rushed for 190 yards on 32 carries, a couple of TDs. So he's very good. He's 73% completion, and he has 608 yards already. So I'd watch out if I was Arkansas. I would take this team very seriously because, like I said, they're only 6.5-point favorite, and it means a lot for the players from Memphis. Some of them probably wish they were recruited by Arkansas. There's always that edge when you're playing a team close by, and some familiar players probably on that team from Arkansas and the surrounding states. So, but Arkansas should win this game. Sam Pittman still on the hot seat, I believe, so he's got to win. But anyway, Arkansas at Memphis, Arkansas 6.5-point favorite. The next game we have is Southeast Louisiana out of the Southland Conference. They're 2-1, 0-0 in the conference. Haven't played yet. And they're playing at LSU. LSU's coming off the victory over Florida Saturday evening. LSU 3-0, 1-0 in the conference. This series, LSU leads, of course, 2-0. Brian Kelly on the teleconference this week, he was mentioning the offensive line. They're trying to teach more technique, be a cohesive unit. And really, this LSU team right now is a defensive-led ball club because the offense right now is they're not struggling, but they're not scoring a lot of points either. And even though they have Garrett Nussmeier, one of the better quarterbacks in the conference in the country, leading that unit. So it's really a defensive led team right now, according to Brian Kelly. The next game we're going to discuss is Tulane, and like I said, we'll have our guest for segment 2 discussing this game in depth. Tulane at number 13, Ole Miss, and let's backtrack for a second with Florida. LSU number 3 in our poll. Tulane, excellent quarterback transfer from BYU, Jake Ratzliff. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's he's one of the top quarterbacks rushing nationally. He's thrown the ball 78 times, completed 46 for 59%, 522 yards, 2 TDs. He rushed the ball 40 times for 288 yards, 6 TDs already in just 3 games. So if I was Ole Miss, I'd pay attention to this Tulane team, their prolific offense. Tulane will play you tough. Once again, from that region of the country, probably some of those players wish they were recruited by Ole Miss. Ole Miss is rushing for 211 yards, passing for 330 yards per game. The offense is at 541 yards per game. The defense yields 381 yards. The rush defense is not very good at all. They give up 194 yards, pass defense 187. Ole Miss had a sensational performance, 400 plus yards by the Division II transfer, Trinidad Chambliss. He took over for Austin Simmons, who was injured. He played a few. He played, I think, maybe one series or something. But Trinidad Chambliss, that was a tremendous find for Lane Kiffin and his staff. I asked him during the teleconference this week how he researched his staff. Checks out all these players across the country. And Lane Kiffin, he was enamored by Trinidad Chambliss, a dual threat quarterback, nearly 3,000 yards passing last year, 1,000 yards rushing. So this might be one of the better finds, the Division II level for certain, probably across the country. So, but anyway, this Tulane Ole Miss game, it could be competitive. Ole Miss is just about a 10 and a half point favorite at this point. They're number 13 in the country, but I'd be careful with this Jake Retzlaff because he's played at a big-time school, BYU. He had a great game against Duke. They won 34-27. He outdueled the quarterback who transferred from Tulane and took more money at Duke. So he's a very excellent quarterback, dual threat quarterback, and we all know dual threat quarterbacks give defenses a rough time. But we're going to be back after these messages with our guest to discuss the Tulane Ole Miss game. Maddy Hudak, the Tulane football sideline reporter for the radio network. We'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP as we see it, and our very special guest is Maddy Hudak, the Tulane University football radio sideline reporter for the Tulane Radio Network. Hey, Maddy, welcome to AP as we see it. So glad to have you on the show today.
Happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Maddy, the Green Wave, 3-0 to start the season. Everyone must be excited.
Yeah, and I think, too, when you look at the opponents that Tulane has beat, the unknown that was surrounding this season without having, an answer at starting quarterback, having all of these turnover on both sides of the ball for your starters, I think for them to come out 3-0, there was all this talk about, can they beat, one or two of these Power 4 teams, but now they have that third one in their sights.
Yeah, and you told me you've been doing this is your fifth year, I guess, so you've seen them play Ole Miss. And you've watched those Lane Kiffin teams with the high-powered offense, but Tulane, they have a high-powered offense of their own with the new quarterback, Jake Retzlaff from BYU. What do you like to tell people about Jake right now?
I think that he just has a lot of moxie out there and kind of a quiet chip on his shoulder. I think you kind of saw that come out against the Duke Blue Devils, where the entire talk of the week was the other quarterback under center.
Yes.
And, for arriving on campus 38 days before the season opener, it kind of felt like Retzlaff's performance was almost flying under the radar until last weekend. And I think just, his ability as a rusher has really shocked everyone, including, his teammates on offense. But he's really just had a sense of command out there. And it really feels like it's Jake Retzlaff's team on offense. And that's really, really impressive when you consider, again, that he showed up a week before training camp.
He's done fairly well throwing the football, too. Not a lot of touchdowns, but productive, over 500 yards at this point.
Yeah, he's been effective with what he needs to do in the red zone for sure. But, I think that you started to see that connection really come on strong, especially this last week. But yeah, I think it's been a really complementary, balanced offense where they're starting to get that timing down. He's starting to get those little intricacies of the receivers that he's been practicing with. And you started to really see it all come together this last Saturday.
I see that Preston, the transfer from Alabama, had a big game last week against the Duke Blue Devils. What should people know about Preston?
Yeah, Shaz, you've kind of just been waiting for that game. And he said it, that wasn't really his breakout game, but just knowing what a big play threat he is, his first play of his collegiate career was a huge touchdown against Memphis last year. And so to see that 63-yard completion, I think it's Retzlaff's longest of the year, and for that to be his first connection with Shaz Preston, I think he's just going to be someone to really focus on this weekend. He was candid about the fact that, he came from Alabama, and, there's questions of, I think a little chip on his shoulder as well of coming into
Right.
an SEC opponent, an SEC environment, and showing that, maybe that people were too quick to write him out of that conference.
The other wide receiver, Omari Hayes, he's the leading receiver, 13 receptions, 143 yards. That's a dynamic duo for the Green Wave.
Yeah, and he's that kind of just short area quickness, deceptive speed guy where, I don't think you expected all of his catches to go for as far as they did. And yeah, that was kind of an overwhelming connection that we saw Retzloff have with Omari Hayes in the first week. And to see that kind of happen now for 2 of the 3 games this year, I think it really bodes well for who he's starting to find that rhythm with.
A quarterback needs protection and support from his offensive line. How do they match up, you think, against this Ole Miss defensive front?
Yeah, I think that they're really starting to kind of figure it out on the offensive line. We saw some personnel shuffle around last week where Darian Reed was our starting right tackle. They started the game last week with our starting right guard, Reese Baker, at right tackle, Jordan Hall, another guy at right guard, and you saw Darian Reed come in a little bit. So I think that kind of rotation and that depth is going to be something that's really important for Tulane, especially again against these Power 4 opponents. You saw Darian Reed get a little gassed against South Alabama, and so to have really a credible group of 3 guys where I would just give a ton of credit to Reese Baker for being able to play right guard and right tackle as credibly as he did. I think that just gives Tulane a lot of breathing room on being worn down by SEC-sized trenches.
Do they utilize the tight end? Do they have plans for the tight end? Yeah, I love a good tight end, but maybe that's not available for the Green Wave. What can you say about their tight end position?
So does Jake Retzloff. The first touchdown he threw was to Justin Reed, our tight end. He's found
Tight
Johnny
end.
Pascuzzi now in the end zone at least once, if not twice. I'm trying to remember. But, quarterbacks like tight ends for a reason. It was just an unknown position group going into this year. And in the spring, you didn't have all the transfers that we had out there. But, for that room, I think it was really just led by Alex Bauman last year, I think is a lot more of a deep room and something that has definitely been an element of this offense.
The name that comes to mind defensively with the 3 interceptions, number 1 in the country, or tied, maybe it's a leader, Javion White. What can you say about him and his prowess as a defensive back?
Yeah, so I actually just interviewed him today for our pregame show this weekend because I really had to talk to him at this point. I think you see really the value of development, and he's just a perfect example there where he learned behind Caleb Ransaw last year, who's now in the NFL, and he spoke about really how impactful that was. But he also got some important time on task last year coming in as a backup. He actually started one game against Rice when Ransaw was hurt, and that's just kind of been a moniker of a lot of Tulane's defense is getting that time on task and then being able to turn that into a starting role. But you can just tell that his film study and his preparation, I mean, he had a dropped interception in that game too, where that game might have gone really differently if he hadn't, but you can just tell that he really knows the other team's game plan quite well and has the athleticism to be able to make those catches.
How's the Tulane defense against the dual threat quarterback? Because we know that Ole Miss, they had to substitute Trinidad Chambliss, the Division II quarterback from Ferris State, Michigan. He's a dual threat quarterback. Maybe he gets a chance to play again. So all defensive, they usually have trouble with the dual threat quarterback. How do you think they might fare against a dual threat quarterback?
Yeah, I think Tulane would prefer to face Simmons, the non-mobile option this week. I think they did struggle
Right.
a little bit with Bishop Davenport against South Alabama. It was a little bit
Yes.
just over pursuing of the quarterback though, and you wondered if it was just almost. I think we didn't see any first game jitters. You almost felt like you saw that against South Alabama, and then they settled at the end. But that is going to be something that'll really test them because they have been a little strained in their run defense as well. So I think just kind of staying calm in the beginning and not kind of trying to over pursue the quarterback in the backfield like they already have will be really important to keep in mind.
Mhm. For those who are not familiar with Tulane and their head coach, very good coach, what can you say about his style in these types of games? Is he a risk taker, or does he play it close to the vest?
I think he takes, the smart risks when they need to. We've seen, some trick plays here and there for Tulane, but we don't see them really getting overly aggressive and moving away from what they are. I think a lot of that has to do with what's been a really important phase for Tulane in special teams. But, some coaches, they're just going to keep wanting to go for 4th down, set that tone kind of early. I think that it is just a little more complimentary, a little more balanced, and trying to just kind of win the game without getting overly aggressive out there. But when you're matching up against a coach like Lane Kiffin, who has his aggressive punches as well, I think Tulane will have to kind of pull a little more of those out this weekend.
Mhm. These two teams have played quite a few times. I noticed that Ole Miss leads the series 44 wins to 28 losses. But for a non-conference game, that's very unique to have this one opponent in the SEC. Of course, Tulane was in the SEC until the mid-'60s.
Yeah, it is. It is a kind of interesting rivalry, and it's been one that's been kind of fun to at least watch from my perspective. I think it's been a good barometer for me on watching Tulane grow as a program. I just think back to that 2021 matchup where Tulane was just outmanned. They were totally undersized, but they really just couldn't make up for it anywhere. Then you saw them in 2023, 2 years later, after they've started to build a winning program, be able to make it a contest with their backup quarterback. And so I think going into this weekend now, there's really, a credible established at least in the last couple of years, reason to fear Tulane coming in there. And I think that it'll be really exciting this weekend.
I know Tulane has the 5 interceptions, 3 by White, so they're a ball hawking type of team, it seems. It's not very many games, 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a ton in the first matchup, but this is a team that, I mean, again, the turnover margin is going to win or lose you football games. They're very aware of that, but it is just, yeah, it's a ball hawking secondary, and it's one with guys that have just a great high point and great hands.
Do they have somebody on the edge, maybe a couple people that can give the quarterback from Ole Miss fits, disrupt him?
Definitely. I think we've seen a lot out of our bandit role. That was something that wasn't really the case to start the year last year, but Harvey Dyson, Mo Westmoreland, Cam Hamilton. I do think the interior of Tulane's line is really kind of their quiet strength down there, but they definitely have the guys to be able to get it done off the edge.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you this question, Maddy. Tulane will win if about a little bit over a minute and a half.
Yeah, I think if they stick to what works for them, don't try to play the game based on how Ole Miss tries to dictate the matchup. And it sounds cliche, but quite frankly, winning the turnover margin, it's really going to matter. We've seen Jake Retzloff lose 2 fumbles now, but we haven't seen him throw an interception. It's going to be really important to keep that at a 0 for Tulane.
Yeah, I mean, and will they have a big crowd, Tulane? Do they travel well? I mean, because they've been building this winning program for a while now, and they give them 5,000 tickets, maybe something like that. Will they travel up to Oxford?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we had fans travel up there in 21 when there wasn't, as much to play for. But what is at this point very credibly a college football playoff spot on the line here with the win this weekend. I think the fans, especially after they showed up in droves last weekend against Duke, really, understand the importance of them being there.
Mm-hmm. This Tulane team, are they one of the favorites right now for the American Conference, Maddy?
I think they should be. They've been to the game the last 3 years. Yeah, they haven't won it, but no other team in the American can say that at this point. And with the way they've started 3-0, I think it's easy to place them as a favorite.
Yeah, and I would think some of the Tulane players maybe they were not recruited by an SEC team. They probably have the chip on their shoulder if they're from this region, particularly.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think, there's a lot to be said about the P4, G5 kind of divide. But I think, yeah, when you're looking at an SEC team like this, it definitely just has a little bit of an extra element of really wanting to put themselves on the national stage.
Hey, Maddy Hudak, the Tulane University football radio sideline reporter. We really appreciate you being on AP as we see it. And we're going to be right back after these messages. Thank you, Maddy.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham with Dr. Northcutt of Robertsdale Dental Care.
AP, not only do we offer basic full-service dental treatment, but I also have developed a niche within the practice where I provide comprehensive dental implant services, such as single implants, bone grafting, and full mouth reconstruction. I've been highly trained in those disciplines to offer comfortable and long-lasting solutions to major dental problems.
Come by and see Dr. Northcutt at Robertsdale Dental Care. And we're back with AP as we see it, and our very special guest is Jason Campbell, the Auburn football radio analyst, the Auburn Sports Network 2004 SEC Player of the Year, first-round draft choice in 2005 of the Washington team. Hey, Jason, welcome to AP as we see it.
Hey, AP, how you doing, man? I'm doing pretty good.
Oh, great. In the middle of college football, it's always a great time of the year, and I know you must be excited about these Auburn Tigers, the way they've started.
Yeah, we're definitely excited about the 3-0 start, especially the Baylor game, right? It's a opponent that's still got a good team. They won their last 6 games of the year last year, finishing out the season, and we knew going into Baylor is going to be a tough game for us, and I feel like our team responded. Every time Baylor responded, we responded, and to me, that just shows a sign of maturity as well as bringing in some top, transfer portal kids, Eric Singleton, Jackson Arnold, Xavier Chaplin, Mason Murphy, Xavier Atkins. The list just continues to go on. But these guys are paying tributes, paying heavy dividends for us early on this season. So we knew Ball State was going to be Ball State, and we knew the South Alabama game last week. But now, it gets really fun. We're into the teeth for our season, and the real season starts now, is what we like to say.
Right, the conference game for sure, going out to Norman, Oklahoma. That series is 3-0 in favor of Oklahoma. I actually remember, I think the first time, Jackson, they played way back in the Sugar Bowl, way before your time. But anyhow, how do you like the performance so far of Jackson Arnold at the quarterback position?
I like Jackson, what he's doing. The main thing for me, what Jackson is doing, AP, is he's taking what the defense is giving him. He's not trying to force the ball right now. The biggest thing he's doing is taking care of the football. And anytime you can take care of the football, that's the most important thing. Because at the end of the day, you can throw for a lot of yards, or you can not throw for a lot of yards, but getting your team to second down and third down and keeping your offense on schedule, it does a lot, because you keep your defense from being in harm's way. But you also show the guys around you that, hey, if I don't have it, man, I know how to throw the ball away or just get rid of it. That's what he's been doing really well so far, and just taking what the defense gives him. So I think as time continues to go, as we get against some tougher teams, I think the ball will have an opportunity to get pushed down the field more, because people will load the boxes up to try to stop our run. So I think, but right now he's progressing very well.
Yeah, the running game's been sensational, especially that first game, over 300 yards, and Jackson Arnold's contributed as a quarterback. So Cobb is your leading rusher right now. So what have you seen from him, Jason? Jeremiah?
Yeah, I think Jeremiah Cobb, this is his best year to date right now. If you think about it, he's off to a great start. Damari Alston was off to a great start in Baylor as well, and then he had the shoulder injury. And now it's been Jeremiah Cobb, show for the last 2 weeks. And, he's really showed that he's learned how to run between the tackles really well. He's another guy that's taking care of the football better. Coach Freeze has been talking to him about holding the ball high and tight, not being loose with it. I thought he's been doing a really good job with that. And he's helped us in the passing game, picking up some pass protections and still learning those different things. But I feel like Jeremiah Cobb is having a great year so far.
Will Deuce Knight have a role this weekend, Jason? Do you think that might happen?
Like I said, the biggest thing for Deuce Knight is always stay ready, because you're always one play away from having to be in any ball game. And I think it's very critical that we get him reps. They got some reps against Ball State, and I think the plan was to get him some reps against South Alabama, but it just didn't work out that way, just so he can get a feel for the college game. But that's why you also have Jack, the other guy there, that we got from Stanford.
From Stanford, right. Ashton Daniels, right? That's his name, Ashton Daniels, maybe?
Yeah, Ashton Daniels. So that's why we have him there as well, because if you get into a thick of a ball game and all of a sudden there's certain situations where, okay, another quarterback's got to go in, if Coach feels more comfortable going with a veteran guy at the time to get us through that ball game, and then we have a week to prepare, then you may go back to Deuce at that standpoint. So you have options in the quarterback room. That's the biggest thing. We have depth this season, but also, Jackson, he's the guy right now.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Going into the season, Jason, I thought the wide receivers, that'd be one of the stronger units on the team. You didn't have to use them as much in the Baylor game to start off, but maybe this coming game, they spread the ball around. I think a couple of your receivers, Cam Coleman, of course, he's very good, has the 10 receptions for 149 yards. And then Eric Singleton also has the 13 receptions for the similar amount of yards, 149. So I think those receivers might be really important this game.
Yeah, like I said, the receivers hadn't had an opportunity that they thought, just yet to, really exploit the football field. First couple of games, we've been very run heavy, and I think a lot of that is on purpose. If you look at the Baylor game, they kept standing a too high shell, kept giving us a run defense, and we kept taking advantage of it. And you go in and you win the game. Then you come against Ball State, we throw the ball a little bit more. Try to get Jackson to a rhythm, get the receivers more involved. And then against South Alabama, we thought we would get a chance to throw the ball more than we did, just to try to get these guys some touches. and continue to advance our passing game. But South Alabama came to play a little bit. The game was a lot
Good
closer
team.
than
Yeah.
we anticipated, but they're a really good group of 5 team and everything, and much respect to them. So I do think with the schedule that we got coming up and the defense we're going to face,
Right.
I don't think you have to worry about us having to throw the football. I think we're really going to have to throw the football in those games. I think a lot of reason Coach ran the ball early on is he wanted to establish the line of scrimmage for our offensive line. It's a new offensive line working together. And the best way to do that is get those guys used to being the attacker rather than being in pass protection, having to absorb the attack. So I think it was by design the first couple of games, get those guys into a rhythm.
I think it's been a bright spot, the offensive line. Jason, how do you feel about the offensive line so far this year?
So we got some veteran guys. You think about all 5 guys they say are draft eligible. We haven't been able to say that in a while for an Auburn offensive line. And so to me, that just, it means we have the talent, we have the ability. Are we still missing a few things? Yes, we can work on, cutting the edges off a little bit better, not letting those guys be in the corners, quarterback, picking up certain blitzes, which goes hand in hand, right? That's some of us on the quarterback, some of us on the lineman and the running backs.
Yes.
Pick up certain pass protections versus blitzes. So, I do like this offensive line, and I think because the newness of it, there's no preseason game. So I think those first 3 games was critical for them because you're going against the Oklahoma defense this week that's, these guys can bring pressure, and these guys can be stout up front. So, but now you have 3 games together to kind of communicate. That's the biggest thing about offensive line is communication on who has in the pass pro.
Have you looked at Oklahoma very much? I mean, John Mateer, they brought down the offensive coordinator from Washington State along with Mateer. The Auburn secondary, I think they're going to be challenged, and that's an area maybe of concern at this point. I mean, they have plenty of games to prove themselves, as you said, but they're going to be challenged this weekend.
Yeah, you got to step up, accept the challenge. That's the thing. These are the games you come to Auburn for. These are the games you want to play in. These are the games that make a name for yourself. So, if you're Auburn defense, you're going out there against a hot quarterback, like I said, named Mateer, who's off to a stellar start this year. He's a dual threat quarterback, got a strong arm. He probably throws the ball better outside the pocket than just sitting inside the pocket. So, you have to rush to contain a little bit and not get out of your rush lanes.
Right.
This guy can scramble and as well throw accurate balls outside the pocket. So, from a secondary standpoint, you got to make sure if you're a man, you stick with your man. Like the play is never over until the whistle is blown. If you're in zone coverages, then you have to communicate to say, hey, this is my drop area, but don't get to a point where you feel like you're just dropping and you feel like, hey, now I'm gonna get out of this drop lane because they're there for a reason. Right.
Yes.
So these guys got to make sure, like Coach Freeze was saying last week, we had to communicate better on defense. We got to play our gaps better. And from a secondary standpoint, yes, you're going to have to get your hips and everything ready to turn and rotate. But these are the games you want to play in. These are the games that you want to win. And if you want to be a big time corner, then you have to accept the challenge this weekend.
For sure. Jason, any surprises so far about the team?
No, not really. I think we're progressing along really well. I think Amarius Williams has really come along. I think if there is, I wouldn't call him a surprise. It kind of was an expectation for him. I think he's done a really good job on the defense when he comes in for Keyron and Keldrick. When you talk about, we play a lot of young guys. We probably played a ton of young guys the first couple of weeks, and that's no surprise on defense. That's what Coach Durkin loves to do defensively. He's not afraid to put young guys out there if he feel like they know the playbook. So there's really no surprises for me at this standpoint. I know everyone's like, oh, man, we got all these receivers. We thought we had more passing yards. And last time I checked, in order to win football games, you better be physical up front. You better be able to run the ball and stop the run. That's still hand in hand. We got 9 games left, and there's going to be games where the ball will go in the air. But the biggest thing for me, man, right now is to stay focused and lock in one game at a time.
I'm glad to hear about Alex McPherson. He's progressing with his health.
Yes.
That was probably a concern. And if the game gets tight, I think.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things that happened last year, Alex.
At this point, yeah.
That's one of the things that happened last year. We missed Alex. Ty Magoon, he's a young talent, but Alice is a proven veteran, and when the game's tight, you kind of feel more comfortable with him kicking the ball because he's done it for the last couple of years. And it's so exciting to see him starting to get a lot of his strength back just from a physical and a health standpoint, because you know how hard he works at it. You know how much he means to this football team and everything. So excited to see him back out there kicking for sure.
Hey, Jason Campbell, Auburn football radio analyst. Thank you so much for being a part of AP As We See It, and we'll be right back after these messages. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP As We See It, our final segment, segment 4. We'd like to thank our guest, Maddy Hudak of the Tulane University football radio station. She's the sideline reporter, and Jason Campbell, the Auburn football radio network analyst. And we also like to thank our sponsors, Greer's Markets, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi. We'd also like to thank Dr. Jason Northcutt, Robertsdale Dental Care, and also the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta. So we're going to continue our discussion. The next game on tap, South Carolina, one of those SEC games at Missouri. So the two Columbia schools, Columbia, Missouri, Columbia, South Carolina. This is Como out in Missouri. Missouri is a 13.5-point favorite. South Carolina 2-1, 0-1. They lost to Vandy last week, 31-7. Their quarterback, Lenore Sellers, was hurt in the first half and had to sit out. So they ended up on the short end of that score. This series is 8-6 in favor of Missouri. Missouri's 3-0. They defeated Louisiana Lafayette 52-10. Missouri has a powerful offense, averaging 587 yards, 303 rushing, and 284 yards passing. Their defense only gives up about 200 yards. South Carolina's offense is anemic right now. 300 yards a game. Defense pretty good, 309 yards, but they're going to have trouble on the road. Lenore Sellers at this moment is listed as questionable. I would think he would play. If not, Luke Doty, the wide receiver quarterback, will have to substitute. He was 18 for 28 for 1 interception, 0 TDs. So I'm not sure what's going to happen out there, but they sure need Lenore Sellers to generate some offense for that unit out there with the South Carolina Gamecocks. Mizzou quarterback Bo Pribula, 68 completions, 89 attempts, 1 interception, 76%, 7 TDs. Ahmad Henry having an outstanding year as a transfer running back from Louisiana. Ahmad Henry, 57 attempts, 462 yards, 5 TDs, averaging 8 yards of reception. As I said, Missouri's a 13.5-point favorite. I would think they would win this ball game at this point because South Carolina is struggling so much on offense, and I don't know if their quarterback's going to be fully healthy, but he's going to have to play if the Gamecocks have a chance, I believe. Going to the next game, UAB 2-1, 0-1 from the American Conference. They beat Akron 31-28. They're playing Tennessee. Tennessee, the number 15-point team. They're a 41-point favorite. Tennessee 2-1, 0-1. They lost to Georgia 44-41 overtime thriller. Tennessee's rushing for 210 yards, passing for 358 yards a game, 560 yards, 68 yards of offense, defense giving up 365. So they should win this game convincingly, but it won't soothe the pain of losing once again to Kirby Smart. The score was close, much better than I think the last 4 times with nearly 30 points in those losses per game. So, but Tennessee looking to rebound and continue with their quarterback transfer from Appalachian State via UCLA for 5 minutes, Joey Aguilar. But I think they I think Tennessee's going to be successful this year because, as I stated preseason, Joey Aguilar is a better quarterback this year than Nico Iamaleava from last year. So Tennessee will improve offensively, need to get a little bit better on defense to give themselves a few more possessions. That would have helped out last week. The next game we have on tap is Georgia State at Vandy. Vandy's a 26.5-point favorite. That series is 1-0 in favor of Georgia State. Vanderbilt was rolling last year, and they had a letdown and lost to Georgia State. Georgia State's 1-2, 0-0 in the conference, the Sun Belt Conference. Vandy is 3-0, 1-0 in the conference by winning at Columbia, South Carolina last week. They rushed for 203 yards, passed for 228, total offense 431 yards. Defensively, they're solid at 237 yards a game. Quarterback Diego Pavia, he's the magic on that team. And their coach, Clark Lee and company, they really have a lot of positive vibes since last year, and they're looking to be better and go to a bigger bowl game and have a better winning record as well. But Vandy, they're not going to look past this Georgia State team being played in Nashville. So it should be a big crowd there and exciting. Next game is Florida, who lost to LSU. They're 1-2, 0-1 in the conference. The second loss, they're playing Miami, number 6 in the country, 7.5-point favorite out of the ACC. Miami Hurricanes are to be playing down there in South Florida. Miami leads this series 30-27. So Miami leads that series 30-27. They run for 179 yards a game with Carson Beck at quarterback, 306 yards a game passing. So 486 yards total offense. Pretty good defense. They beat Notre Dame first game of the year in a tight ball game, 27-24. Defensively, they allow 279 yards. They're very good against the run, only 75 yards, 204 yards passing. So Carson Beck, he's playing very well for the Hurricanes, and Mario Cristobal. That's been a good transfer for him. Florida, offensively, 390 yards a game, 137 yards rushing, passing 253. Defensively, 264 yards, pretty good. Only 87 yards rushing, passing 177 yards. But as I watched that game last week, and I covered that game, DJ Lagway, they blitzed him frequently, and it seems like he didn't have the over the middle hot release. They had receivers heading straight down the sideline on the left and the right, and they didn't have time to even turn around to look for DJ Lagway, who was under pressure all evening. So the coaches didn't do much, in my opinion, to help DJ Lagway, and they just didn't have enough offense. And even though LSU's not playing great on offense, Florida couldn't match them. So that was another loss for the Gators. Next ball game we have Auburn. The Auburn Tigers travel to Oklahoma to face the Sooners. The Sooners are a 6.5-point favorite. Auburn facing Oklahoma. They've never beaten the Sooners. The Sooners lead that series 3-0. Auburn, 242 yards rushing. Excellent. Passing 173. Total offense 415. Defensively, 287 yards. They're giving up 220 of that 287 through the air, only 67 yards on the ground. So I know Oklahoma's going to test them through the air. Those defensive backs have got to be ready. Oklahoma rushes for 156 yards. John Mateer, the very good transfer from Washington State, throws for that passing offense is around 316 yards per game. The OU offense is 472 yards per game right now. But I think that it's going to come down to, can the secondary of Auburn face the challenge, as we spoke to Jason Campbell, can they face that OU passing game and slow it down to some degree? Auburn, their tackling is going to be tested in space. The Oklahoma right now is minus 1.67 in the turnover category. So maybe Auburn gets 1 or 2 turnovers that could change the outcome of that game. That's a strong possibility. But OU's defense has been pretty dominant. They had some portal acquisitions, as we said, offensively. Jaden Ott hasn't done anything yet. They're very good running back from University of California. But John Mateer has been very good for the Oklahoma Sooners. And if he wins this ball game, he's going to continue in his Heisman quest, I believe. But Auburn can change that if they play a little bit of defense against the Oklahoma Sooners passing game. That will help them out, and Auburn has to stay close. Jackson Arnold returns, the former quarterback of Oklahoma. It's a big day for him. It's always interesting when a player competes against a former team. Do they try to take on too much? Sometimes that happens, but if he just is comfortable in his role and relies on his teammates to support him, he's going to be fine. But I think, that's the dynamic in that game. The former Oklahoma quarterback returning to Norman, Oklahoma to face his former team. The next ball game we have is Northern Illinois. Out of the MAC, they're 1-1, 0-0, and 0-0 in the conference, facing Mississippi State. Mississippi State undefeated, 3-0, 0-0 in the conference. They're a 21.5-point favorite. Mississippi State's offense right now clicking, 441 yards. Blake Shapen's doing very well. Defensively, only 263 yards per game. So they have a pretty good defense, but I wouldn't take that MAC team lightly. We've seen this in the past. Northern Illinois last year upset Notre Dame and South Bend. I know they're 1-1 at this moment, but don't take them lightly. Mississippi State, they're trying to revive that program, sitting at 3-0. This would be big for them to reach 4-0 because they'll be on their way to a bowl game. They could probably win a couple more games to reach 6, which is the qualifying amount of wins for a bowl game. So Mississippi State in an excellent position. Next game, Sam Houston State. By the way, Northern Illinois, Mississippi State, that's the first time they're ever meeting. Next ball game, Sam Houston State playing Texas. Texas, a 41.5-point favorite. Sam Houston State out of the Conference USA. They're 0-3. They're 0-1 in the conference. They had a bye last week. Texas leads the series 1-0. I think this is really a game for Arch Manning to find his groove in the passing game because he has not been up to the standard that was anticipated. I would just say that. So Texas is trying to be better offensively in their passing game, especially with Arch Manning looking to win that ball game. But anyway, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Greer's Markets, Robertsdale Dental Care with Dr. Jason Northcutt and the Cortland Grand Hotel downtown Atlanta, our guest as well. And that's the end of our episode, segment 4 of AP As We See It. And we'll be back next week for another episode of AP As We See It. Thank you very much. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.